get started, if you can please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the June 6, 2019 Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. We have several discussion items to get through first tonight. Number one on the agenda, residential subdivision for Cowfold Farms has been adjourned until June 20th. Number two, discussion item on the agenda is Riverhead Islamic Center.
Good evening.
Hi, anyone here from?
I told the architect, hey, you can come on up here, right?
You can open yours? Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So this is a preliminary approval for the Riverhead Islamic Center. The board should be familiar with it, but I just wanted to have a brief discussion in case the board had any questions, because it's been a while since we looked at it. The applicant and the ARB were going back and forth about a couple things, and that was finally worked out. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's for the house is being converted into the residence of the worship leader, and there's a two-story mosque. So I did include some conditions that the board had already agreed upon, including that the verbal call to prayer shall be inside the building only. There were some slight things that had to be addressed on the site plan that will be addressed before the final approval. And I know that the stormwater pollution prevention plan still has to be addressed.
Yes, we received those comments just a couple of days ago.
So, unless the board has any specific questions, I just wanted to kind of inquire.
What were the issues with the ARB?
Some planting changes, some,
Needed similar materials on both the buildings, the walls. We connected the two buildings, the house and the mosque building, with there was no sidewalk. You had to go to the main sidewalk to come back, so we put some stepping stones between it and put some plants. We really zeroed in on the trees that they talked about, so I think we satisfied all those requirements that they wanted.
So the original building's still gonna be residence,
Yes,
and the church will be in the back.
yes.
Correct. And the main entrance to the mosque will be at the rear of the parking lot.
It had been a while since you were last here. I had asked Karen to just remind the board of the public hearing that we had and the comments that we received. I
Yeah,
got it.
we did
received
have a
it.
public hearing, August 2nd, 2018. Carissa had forwarded to you the comments at the public hearing.
Right.
Did you want me to?
No, I just wanted to point out that it'd been a while and I hadn't recalled the public hearing, and from what she forwarded me, there were many more supportive comments than against.
This is true. Yeah, a lot of people looking for a place of worship close to home.
Okay, any other questions?
No?
Okay, we'll vote on it tonight with the resolutions. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You go.
Yeah, I think we Okay, next item on the agenda is target modernization.
This is on for a
you like to wait for him? We could go to the next one and come back.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, let me go grab the other one then. Okay.
Okay, number 4, Sons Riverhead LLC.
Just bear with me for a second. All right, I believe we have some folks here from the application.
Hello.
Hi, you just have your names for the record, please.
Sure. Jeff Sirota. San Diego architect.
Okay. This is the former Sports Authority. You had gotten a review letter I had sent, but the latest plan in your packet was a plan we actually got today. So my comments may or may not still be valid regarding this latest plan. And I started looking at it, but I'll get into that a little more later. The ARB is okay with this application. Basically, this application and the Target application, they're right next door to each other, and there's a operations and easement agreement between them. Since this application came in first, they put the pylon sign on the adjacent property on their application. Both properties share a driveway from Old Country Road, which is actually on the Target parcel. But at the time, we only had the former Sparks Authority parcel, so there was a safety issue with the striping on the driveway being quite faded, so we requested that they include that on this application as well. That's the only reason why this application includes the 2 parcels. Both applications got comments from Suffolk County DPW about upgrading the ADA ramps and signals for Old Country Road. This one is to split the former Sports Authority into 3 storefronts to add a loading dock. And we had discussed this quite some time ago. There were lots of issues with getting things corrected on the site plan, but hopefully most of those have been addressed. There's a public hearing on tonight for this. Yes, there's a public hearing on tonight for this. One thing I did notice that the lighting plan still has some issues with.
Yes, we'll get to that
Okay.
very shortly.
So, just wanted to see if the board had any questions. I did tell the 2 applications to work together on some of these issues with the driveway and the DPW comments.
Excuse me.
Can
Karen.
we make a comment?
Mhm.
If I may, I have here from Orion Engineering, our traffic expert, who we're collaborating with Target.
Mhm.
We're working together in conjunction, and as per the DPW, he has submitted the traffic changes they requested with
Okay.
ramps and signalization.
Oh, great.
So I have a copy of that, I'll give you
Okay,
some extras if you need.
that should be fine.
And I also have a layout. Which,
So that's the plan.
that's the plan, so
you're doing this simultaneously with Target, correct?
Yes, we are. We're doing this in collaboration. We're working together on it with the DPW, as you can see.
Okay. I did also wanna mention, besides the lighting, which really has to be addressed before we can do an approval, is, I know it's really not a town issue, because our code does allow a gym, but there's quite a voluminous operations and maintenance agreement, and it talks about how you can have a gym, which they're proposing, of a certain square footage within a certain distance of the property line with Target.
So if I may, can I-
Mhm.
right here I have the operation easement, the amendment to it.
Okay.
We are a week away from signing it.
Oh.
The only issue, this is from Target. The reason that it's dated 2018, it was a negotiation, and now it's complete. We're only waiting for a change of an assignment clause, but I have in here waivers for Planet Fitness and waivers for Dollar Tree as well, from Target, so. But this is not executed. I will give it to you next week when it's executed.
Is it just gonna be 2 tenants?
No,
It's
3 tenants.
Still
one
3?
tenant to be
Still 3?
determined.
Okay.
Yeah. You can take this as
Oh,
well.
thank you.
Does the ownership extend to the Walgreens?
No, not at all.
So that's pretty much it, unless the board has any
I had a
questions you want to
question
ask.
for Mr. Schroeder. In your professional opinion, I know you're an expert at this. With the Amazons of the world, do you see the brick and mortar buildings, like on Route 58, do you see that surviving in the future?
I see a challenge in the future, but I do see many retailers adapting and adjusting to the changes. And we even have someone here from Dollar Tree, who is Krista Manon, who is a pretty expert in the real estate with Dollar Tree, and they're adapting as well. Most of our tenants are doing pretty well.
So you don't suspect there's gonna be 1 million vacancies along Route 58 anytime soon?
No. What I do suspect is on occasion, you'll have a company like Sports Authority who didn't adapt. They didn't change with the changing times. And I think they're a victim of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Karen, the loading dock.
Yes.
Is that, I can't tell by the aerial. That's in the back of the store, I
It's,
see, right?
it's on the, east side of the building towards the back.
Yeah,
What's-
the northeast corner of the,
It's between the two buildings, let's say,
Right, but what's the property directly behind them?
nothing.
Is it all farm?
I
Farm,
think
Okay.
it's farmland.
yes, it's the,
I didn't know if the apartments went that far.
Anderson's Farm is behind
Okay.
them.
yes, Anderson's farm.
Okay, any other questions?
Is there a cross easement on the west side?
Yes, there's a cross easement to, constructed to Walgreens. So you can go all the way from.
Right, I see it there now.
Go right to the circle.
Yeah.
Harrison
Right to
Avenue.
the Roanoke's,
To Harrison, I believe it is.
Yeah.
All right, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We should stay for the public hearing too, right?
I'm sorry?
We should stay for the public hearing.
Yeah, in case there's any questions,
Sure,
I would recommend that.
absolutely.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go back to number 3 on the agenda, Target modernization.
Hi, how are you? Okay.
Just your names for the record, please.
Kevin Van Heist with Kimley Horn.
Christopher Kent from Farrell Fritz on behalf of the applicant.
So basically, this was put on the agenda. I haven't reviewed it yet, but, I was asked to put it on because we're doing a, request for public hearing. So hopefully, before the public hearing, I'll have a chance to, do some comments on this application. Basically, it's for a, facade refresh, new EIFS cladding, soffit lighting, repainting, replacing the building signs, new signage, and an update to the parking lot lighting, same as next door at the former Sports Authority to comply with our dark sky ordinance. This is basically what they're proposing. If anybody wants to see it up close, I can pass it up there.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, yeah. Yeah.
So, unless the board has any objections to what they're proposing with the building facade, we'll get them onto the ARB agenda. And like I said, they're on for a resolution to set the public hearing for July 2nd, I believe it is. That's what we had required for the former Sports Authority, public hearing, and it would be an administrative approval.
Just be mindful that that day is not on our normal Thursday.
Yes, it's on July 2nd, because
Yeah.
July 4th is a Thursday. I would just, on behalf of the applicant, we're not proposing any changes to the building whatsoever. There is some facade improvements that are being done. That triggered us having to comply with the new code for lighting in the parking lot, and we're going to do that. We don't, we'd request that you consider waiving the public hearing. I don't know why there would be a public hearing. There's really no site plan improvements being made other than the facade. There's no revisions to the building, and we're only doing the lighting to comply with the dark skies requirements under the code. So we'd make a request to waive the requirement for the public hearing.
I would agree that they're very minor in nature, changes, improvements. I'm just interested in what ARB will say with the color.
Well, we're gonna make our sign application and be on the ARB on June 26th. So, we could have a report back prior to site plan approval, amended site plan approval. But I'm not sure if we need whether, we would make a request that there be no need for a public hearing, but.
If the ARB is okay with it, no, why?
We've done it before. Just let us bounce it off Dick Ayers.
Okay, well, you have a resolution out for tonight. If you, we could always set the public hearing and then.
We don't have any other attorneys here for the town tonight?
No.
When are you looking to start the work anyway?
We're looking to start the work in August.
I mean, the ARB is June 26th. I haven't reviewed the application yet. I don't think having a public hearing July 2nd is going to slow down things greatly.
Okay.
That's the concern.
This probably
Lighting.
will be an administrative.
Right, well, that's what had been agreed upon for the Sports Authority, so I think this one would.
finalize.
Well, then as an option, maybe we could have a public hearing but not need a preliminary, go right to final?
No,
since
no,
it's a-
that we had agreed that it would be an administrative, it wouldn't be a preliminary and a final.
Do that on July 2nd, after the public hearing.
Okay, that would be
Can
great.
do-
Okay.
Because we're looking to
can do-
mobilize and get it done before
do
the
what on July
back-to-school
2nd?
sales.
After the public hearing, we can do the resolution.
It's only 6 days, yeah.
To approve?
Yeah.
We usually don't do resolutions to approve the same night we do the public hearing.
Since it's administrative.
We could have
Or-
the approval on July 18th and still be ready to mobilize.
Okay.
Okay. We understand that, just to let the board know, we understand that there'll also be a condition from the Department of Public Works. With every site plan that comes before the planning board, they're making us do intersection improvements to make them ADA compliant. And there'll be a condition, we understand, of CO, and we already have our application into the Department of Public Works.
58.
Yes, so that intersection with a traffic signal, there will be ADA compliance upgrades made for that intersection, which is what the county's doing all along with 58.
That's really crosswalks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Cool. Next item on the agenda, number 5, Central Square at Wading River.
Good evening. At some point, I'd like to make a few comments. Maybe I could make them sooner rather than later, if I could, with your permission. This is an application that you approved, and we've got a signed Mylar paper print on it. And back in October, I made a request to have it reapproved. And the comment I got back was that we have a code provision on site plans that you can only get 3 years and 1 year extension. And I said, you know, draw the parallel to subdivisions. Years ago, we never had, I don't think, a code provision on the one year maximum extension on a filed map. If you wanted to file a map, you'd ask for 6 months, then you ask for 2 90-day extensions. And everyone complained that, geez, you know, we can't get this done with the health department or the DEC or the DOT or anybody. And so the state legislatively amended the law in the state and said, it's up to the discretion of the planning board that they can ask more than that total of 1 year on extensions, because the final product was the signature on the Mylar and paper prints and the filing with the county clerk. To draw a parallel with site plans, the final product is the signature on the Mylar satisfying all the conditions and the filing with the town. That took place. And what we've done here is, you did a nice job, and everybody with input and compliance with Pine Barrens and DOT and traffic reports and all this, we delivered everything that was required. It included sterilizing half of our property by a deed to the development rights to the back area, which is the preferred way to do it in the town these days, granting a cross-access easement to allow for cross-access to the neighbor in reliance on the final site plan resolution, and filing declarations and covenants. So I was taken back when I was told that, you know, you're gonna have to start again and reapply. And I had doctored a letter that was addressed to the planning board and basically said what I said. I then had a meeting and said, Mr. Ayers was present, I think Mr. Murphy as well. And I said, you know, there's a hard way and easy way to do this, and I get that, and I'm not threatening in any way litigation or anything else at that point, but I didn't see the logic. I understood if I couldn't satisfy the conditions set forth in the planning board resolution, if I couldn't get the health department, if I couldn't get the DOT, if I couldn't satisfy all your conditions, and if I hadn't, you know, sterilized my property, I'd understand it then. Hey, we gave you a total of 4 years and you couldn't satisfy our conditions, and the map never got filed with the town. But I satisfied all the conditions, and in my mind, we vested our rights to this site plan. I mean, if you change the zoning of 10-acre zoning or something else, it's a different story. So I swallowed hard, and I delivered the $30,000 new fee, and I refiled the application. And I was hoping, logically, that we get on to a resolution to reapprove and if necessary, a public hearing again. The same exact plan, nothing has changed. And I'm not talking about minor matters. Marty said, Sandluski, who did the design, said he sent an updated lighting plan in on the resubmission. But then, this is back in October after I refiled, you know, we had to go to county planning again. I ran over to the county planning meeting, and I said, look, you know, we've done all these things, but just react the same way. I don't even wanna make waves. Just give us the same comments you gave us the last time. Same thing again, which we got. And so, all right, now I'm ready to move on again. And then I say, okay, now let's do what you gotta do and rehear me and give me my reapproval. Now, I never take this as a personal comment or as a criticism. Karen does a very, very, very thorough job, and she's very accurate about reciting the history here, and very accurate about getting to where we are today. And even a comment about, I mean, she's so thorough that she picks up that Marty says OR rather than CR zoning, so we're gonna correct that. We're gonna change the parking because you amended the code to make parking a little bit more liberal than retail. Even though we put an updated lighting plan in, if you want LED lighting, we'll do the LED lighting. But what I'm about to really concern myself with is revisiting, oh, let's start a new traffic report, let's type 1U, maybe we're gonna coordinate review, and maybe we want a new traffic report because DOT said they wanted one, and I'm about to, I talked to Dan Winkleman from VHB and said, find out who said that and why. And, you know, we got out of this whole club standard for the Pine Barrens through the exact same plan with the exact same everything. And I know there's a comment made in the staff report, compare this to Venezia Square, who I represented at some point with Jimmy Tunis. He's no longer involved. Chick Voorhees is carrying on the deal. There are other issues besides traffic there. There were issues about the local farmer apparently planted some corn on part of the property, and as a result of that, the Pine Barrens people thought that was a disturbed area and would count against the yield on development, and the only way to go through that is to go for a variance through the Pine Barrens people, and Chick Voorhees is doing that and has done his traffic study, but that's apples to oranges here. You know, we did this complete, expensive, delayed traffic report. And now when I read the staff report, it says, we're gonna talk to the planning board about requiring another traffic report, and we think it should be done in the fall. And I'm seeing everything just extrapolate like forever. And I guess my only advice to any client, not that I'm gonna have many more, is to say never, ever, unless you're ready to stick a nail in the ground and apply for a building permit simultaneously with doing all these things to satisfy the conditions. Don't ever sterilize your property and give cross-access easements. It's crazy. So I really thought the town should amend their code to allow for an extension beyond the total of 4 years. But that hasn't been done. It may not be done. And if it was like reapply, give us 30,000 and we'll do this promptly. But to revisit the whole thing again, I think is insanity. And my last parting shot here is, this is a beautiful retail center, and I thank you for a lot of comments you made that made this look nice. And the same thing is true across the street with Kenny Barrows Hamlet Center. One's an office park, one's a retail center. But you know, don't be surprised if nothing gets built. I brag about Riverhead. I grew up here. I say invest in Riverhead, buy Riverhead, build Riverhead. I want it done. A lot of people will be happy if nothing gets built. I get that. That's their attitude. But don't be surprised if this just gets planted into agriculture again. Because I think, you know, you got 3 or 4 years and no one's offered to buy it. And I don't see anyone speccing and building centers and hoping for tenants. You know, unless on the office park, unless St. Charles or Mather or Stony Brook comes down the road, you can see Northwell's occupied a lot of space, and good for them, and I thank them for investing in the town. But, you know, that's my pitch of the day, and Karen does a very thorough job, and I didn't mean to interrupt her, other than I usually interrupt her by saying I agree with these 10 things. Here's 2 to debate, but that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right. This was approved in 2012. It got extended 1 year. It then expired. We did get a new application. Some of the board may have been around at the time. This was originally approved, some of the board not. So when I reviewed this, I really didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I just wanted to go over, code changes, things that may be outdated, things of that nature. Just because there may have been some confusion, this is the property to the east of CVS. It's across from the Hamlet Center office complex that we approved going back a little bit. It is in the Pine Barrens compatible growth area. That Hamlet Professional Offices across the street was not, so it's a little different. It's a large shopping center, 52,612 square feet, a bank, 150-seat restaurant, 2 buildings of 9,786 square feet with retail and professional office uses, and 2 buildings of 989 square feet, the same. And like Peter said, they did file their covenants, cross-access. They did put a scenic open space easement on the rest of the property that's not going to be developed, so that meets the Pine Barrens clearing requirements. When this project was originally approved, the traffic study was from 2011. It didn't include some of the other projects that were approved subsequently, or are under review subsequently, like Hamlet Professional Offices, Venezia Square. The DOT, as Peter said, does want an updated traffic study. One of the things that was brought up in the prior review was whether this was considered a development of regional significance by the Pine Barrens Commission. That means that the level of service has dropped 2 levels or has been reduced to a D level of service. There was some back and forth on that, letters from the Pine Barrens Commission. The applicant finally gave a letter saying that they hadn't included the correct pass-by percentage, which is the percentage of cars that are going to another destination and get kind of sucked into this location. But time has passed, much time has passed. So that's a concern that I thought I should bring
Karen,
up.
when they did the traffic study, did they do a traffic study for Hamlet Professional Center?
No, that wasn't even on the agenda
then.
at the time.
Not then. When Hamlet Professional came to the board,
Yes.
it was done for
What?
them,
For them,
for Hamlet.
for Hamilton.
They did a traffic study.
Okay, for some reason I recall this project coming up in their traffic study.
They included this, yes, in their traffic study.
Okay.
You think that would satisfy DPW?
I wouldn't think so, but I'm not DOT in this case. So, I did want to correct on page 5. I put the planning board needs to determine whether coordinated review will be required. Actually, this would be considered a type 1 action with our new environmental quality review code. So I did want to point that out, so coordinated review would be required. So I was just recommending that the traffic study, they also brought up the DOT brought up, on file we have a traffic impact study and a signal warrant analysis prepared by VHB in 2011. These studies need to be updated. As far as access to the property, just to remind the board, there's a right in, right out to the east, and there's a unrestricted turning movement driveway to the west. There's separate lanes for right turns and left turns going out. I did want to mention, it looks like there's a traffic signal here, where it was originally said that there would be stop signs in the traffic study. So I just wanted to bring that up because I didn't mention that in my comments. As far as the water district, I did refer the plan to the water district. They said a lateral water main extension would be required, all the way to the west side of the property. It's across Route 25A, so they'd have to go across Route 25A. Also, they had brought up that that unless Hamlet Professional Office extends the water main to their western property boundary first, then Central Square would be required to extend the water main from the existing terminus to the east to the existing terminus to the west, which is by Senor Taco. They were concerned also about providing the required fire service flows unless the water main was looped. Suffolk County Planning Commission had some comments that were pretty, consult with Suffolk County Suffolk County Department of Health, continue to consult with DOT, review the Suffolk County publication managing stormwater, accommodate into the site plan the guidelines on energy efficiency, and the guidelines on public safety. The only thing I kind of want to bring up with this is that the planning board in the past had considered some of the things kind of addressed regarding green methodologies. There's permeable surfaces in front of the buildings and the walkway, so the board felt that had been addressed.
So go back a minute. You've got a paragraph in there. The planning board should determine if these issues should be able to be addressed by conditions of the site plan approval.
Which page are you on now, Dick?
Right where you were, above Suffolk County Planning Commission. That paragraph, small paragraph.
Help me out. What?
Page 6.
I'm on page 7, so, okay, page,
Well, you went fast.
page 6.
I think what you're saying is that
Right, regarding the water district, I said the planning board should determine if these issues would be able to be addressed as conditions of site plan approval or needed to be included in a secret review.
So we've got a decision.
Sorry, I skipped over that. We're on page 6, final paragraph under water district.
Is there any issue with your client doing their portion of the tie-in as required by the water district?
Here's I have no problem with the condition that whatever the water district says for a lateral water district extension will be a condition of the approval. My expectation is you won't see a project be built in my short term on this earth across the street, and therefore this idea of we're gonna have two projects going on at the same time, I don't believe is going to happen. With that said, a site plan resolution of reapproval subject to a lateral water district extension is something we recognize. all my debate here has been that the traffic report for Hamlet study, the traffic signalization, the entry, and how we juxtapose the two projects across from what were considered by the board when you approved Hamlet Center and took into consideration the approval for this particular project. I'm sure Karen will supply me with the DOT person who sent her whatever email. And Dan Winkleman I spoke to from VHB today to say, call up DOT, find out who said what to whom, and let's put an end to what is needed there. It was sort of interesting that when we did the traffic study the first time, and when Karen remarks about some of this in the report where she said the deputy town attorney made contact with the Pine Barrens up to the town to determine whether this traffic study is acceptable and does not, turn over jurisdiction to the Pine Barrens people, and that's in her staff report, which is correct, okay? There happened to have been 2 different publications with regard to traffic reports, and I don't memorize these things, but call them with a fancy name. One of them had levels like A through F, and the other one had A through D. And so it was really someone not looking correctly from the Pine Barrens view
John.
as to what the level of service was. It actually passed when someone thought it was failing because they were reading 2 different publications.
Well, I think that letter, they did say that, my take on it was, they did say it did meet the qualifications for development of regional significance, but then they included this pass-through percentage of I think it was 35%.
All I want to say without boring everybody, and you have other clients here in the back or other people here, is that at the end of the day, the planning board approved and signed the map, and we met the conditions of CLUP, the Pine Barrens, and we did this traffic report, and you subsequently had other traffic reports. And so, for us to start and say, let's do another traffic report, let's do counts in the fall sometime, let's get involved and see if maybe this time it doesn't qualify for the same project. For the same project, we haven't changed anything other than whatever little changes you want me to make, like lighting, all right? Wow.
I mean, it's up to
Not the right thing, I'll
It's
tell you
up to
that.
the board to make this decision, but we're gonna have to do, it appears to me that we're gonna have to do at least a coordinated review.
Well, there's another quick question about when you change legislatively, we've already been typed one way, we've already been approved one way, and when would we submit, and when did they pass legislation, all has to be taken into consideration.
I think we probably should get some input from Dick Ehlers on these issues.
I don't mind putting it off for that point of view. I mean, I'm just, you can see my blood pressure rising when we talk about these things. It's fair and then it's really not
I just
fair.
wanna bring up to the board all the issues.
No,
So the board
and
can make a informed decision.
No, my criticism is not personally of Karen. I think she does a very thorough job in reciting the history here. It's just that there's 1 or 2 of these points that wrong.
So to get back to the Suffolk County Planning Commission comments, they had wanted the project to comply with the energy efficiency guidelines. And at the time, they had shown photo cells and lighting timers to conserve energy. However, they're proposing high-pressure sodium, which is really all technology, and it's not really energy efficient compared to LEDs. So I would recommend that they update the lighting to meet current code and use LEDs.
And I have no problem with that, other than Marty having told me that he updated the lighting to be compliant with what the law is today. Now, if you're saying whatever Marty did with his resubmission of a new lighting plan when we submit it here is still not satisfactory because this board wants something specific that may not be code required, but you want it, I'm happy to listen to that and do whatever you want. If you think LED for some reason is better than high-pressure sodium, even though the code allows high-pressure sodium, then fine. It's not something for me to quarrel with, other than look at Marty's last plan, make sure you've seen his last plan, and if you need it changed, we'll change it. From a board perspective.
It's really up to the board. I mean, there's nothing to preclude high-pressure sodium, but as long as it complies with
Have we been
code.
consistently requiring the LED elsewhere?
Everybody's been using LED, because they know it's energy efficient. And the Suffolk County Planning Commission guidelines would need to use the most energy efficient.
You know, it was interesting at the County Planning Commission meeting, because I was there, because I was so worried that if I don't go, something's gonna happen that I won't like. And when we got into it, they, you know, I was saying, you know, we sterilized the piece, we've done this and that, but I tell you what, don't change what you said the last time. It's the exact same words. I said, because I can go back to the planning board and say, you did this, they said the very same thing last time, you required this, the very same things I'd ask you to require again. That's all.
It's just that, you know,
And I'm not arguing
that's from
that.
2012, we're now in 2019, technology has changed. So, does the board want to let me know what you'd like to do regarding the lighting?
Just my comment, you know, he's already agreed that if that's what you absolutely have to have, then we'll become compliant with the LED.
I think,
I believe me, I understand your concerns and your frustrations. I think, at this point, this is just my opinion, I think what we need to do is, unfortunately, he's not here, is talk to Dick.
okay, and I have no problem with that.
think
And
that's
like I
what
say,
we want,
if the town board and the planning board get together and say, let's amend the code to say LED lighting is mandated, then you mandate it, we do it. And if it's really that strong a feeling from the planning board members, then I tell Marty, what does it take
Well,
to do
is
LED? It
Marty's
can't
plan
be hard.
compliant?
What's that?
Is the current plan that Marty
Says it
provided,
is.
is it compliant?
Yeah, like I said, it looks okay, except they're using high-pressure sodium. And I was looking for guidance from the board if they wanted to change it to LED due to energy efficiency issues.
Well, I think the board would prefer that,
Yeah.
but if he's compliant and he's following the code, I don't know if we have the right to tell him if it's not codified.
Let me talk to Marty and John, and we'll get back to you after we talk to Dick.
All right, let's talk about the traffic study. I, for one, am opposed. The town was happy to take your $30,000 application fee, and now we want to extend your time another 6 months so we can count the pumpkin pickers. There's going to be a lot of traffic during pumpkin picking season. We don't need a study to tell you
Strawberry
that.
season is there already.
So I, for one, would oppose the additional cost, the additional time to the applicant for the traffic study.
I agree with that.
Agree.
Okay, so everybody agrees with that?
Yep.
You know, we spent, I know, Stan, I don't think you were here, or George.
Yep, I
We
know.
spent a lot of time on this application years ago. And the economy wasn't really good then. We have the opportunity to help somebody out. We
My
have-
real concern is between the time it was approved and now, if code changes have taken place that they have to now comply with. And if they haven't been,
Yeah, that's
Right.
like
Well,
I say, the parking requirement thing.
The park-
You've liberalized it. We're agreeing to change the schedule on the map. We do a typo, we'll change it. I'll talk about the lighting to see where it goes, but I'm willing to do those things. All I'm saying is the delay and the expense to be into Never Never Land is what I appreciate your comments just now.
I did have some comments about the plan regarding, well, I don't want to get out of order, if the board
You can keep going,
allows.
please.
We had put conditions in the previous approval about the applicant would have to come back for further site plan approval for the elevations for the bank and the restaurant, since we have no elevations for those. So unless the board has an issue with that, we would leave that the same. I did get some additional comments from the town engineer regarding the leaching pool detail and that they needed an excavation permit. He wanted specs for the proposed lighting fixtures. They did get a SWIP already. Parking, I did indicate they need to update the parking calculations to conform with current code. There's no problem with the amount of stalls they're showing. As far as accessibility, I did notice some issues with the handicapped ramps, which I guess at the time I wasn't so well versed in ADA compliance, so, you know, with ADA, with ramps ending at the building wall and things like that needs to be corrected. It looked like there was a little bit of a calculation error in the square footage, in the acreage as compared to square footage. Just looks like a small issue there. Cross-access, like I said, that's already in place. And then just some, you know, policy has changed. Now the planning board typically wants an irrigation well for irrigation, so I recommended that. There was some code sections which have changed that needs to be corrected. Just some recommendations about the quality of the landscaping. Some of the bushes to screen the parking area are 2-gallon containers. I recommended 5-gallon containers. And then New York State Department of Transportation, like we've already addressed. I think it's a good idea to talk to Dick Ehlers, get his advice on some of these issues
Yes,
before we go
that's what we'll do.
forward.
Okay, I heard some of the other comments, and I certainly don't have too many comments. I think there was something about 85-something acres as opposed to feet on your report.
No, it was just that you put the square footage and you put the associated acreage. They don't match up.
But I think when you typed your report, you said that there's 85-point-something acres. It meant to say feet. That's,
Where are you talking about?
just read the 85,000. I want to make a point of it. Anyway, we'll adjust to the handicapping provisions and things like that. I mean, gallonage from 2 to 5 apparently was good at 2 last time, but now it's not good at 5. Whatever.
These were recommendations. If the board wants to talk to Dick Ehlers, and then we can.
But all I'm saying is the same plan, we have the same comments, we have the same whatever, and now we jump to 2 to 5. A minor matter compared to everything else. Thank you very much.
So the only comment that I'm a little, confused about that you mentioned was you didn't think it was gonna be built, or the one across the street wasn't gonna be built?
Was across the building.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, here's the problem. The problem is, this is a beautiful plan, and I thought for sure, because of how attractive it was, and because of 25A, and because of the need for not big boxes, but this sort of campus-style layout, being where it is, heavily trafficked, as folks know, some people live in the neighborhood, and I thought for sure people would be knocking it down. And the same across the street, when you think about hospitals and offices and medical offices and being next to one. But at some point, no one's gonna take the next step of spending a lot of money and being into construction. And if that means they plant it in I don't care, raise horses or raise grapes or raise potatoes, you know.
Peter, I'm a little confused. The Hamlet Professional Offices, that's been approved,
Yes, and it has not been sold and it's not been built.
and you're saying you don't think it's going to be built?
I'm just saying that if someone were buying it or renting it, we'd be underway. And I say, for the town of Riverhead's sake, let's hope they do get built, and if not, well,
Well, the fact that you're
Alright,
back
we
here
go.
with this
Yeah.
project, is it imminent that it will be built?
I don't, you know, no one's gonna build even this project unless somebody is saying they will occupy the space for the
Well,
purpose of.
I'm assuming that because
You
you're
know,
back here and you're
I don't
going
wanna,
through this process.
I'm sitting here
there's
saying,
something
because
going on.
people are writing in reports, something they have to write, that says, well, when these two projects get done together, certain things will flow, and certain costs will be here, and certain extensions will take place, and I'm saying, don't bet on it. I'd love to be wrong. I wanna be wrong. I want every project that's there, that's tastefully done, and well-designed to be built for the town, for the sake of the tax base, if nothing else. But there are those folks out there that'll be happy if it's not.
outside of our control.
I understand. Thank you very much, I appreciate your courtesy.
You're welcome.
You too, Karen, sorry, I think I need to-
Item 6 on the agenda, area real estate, 7-Eleven.
All right, bear with me while I get the plan.
Do you have a color elevation here, Karen?
Yes. Everybody got the latest elevation in their boxes.
Yep.
Maybe we can do this in more.
Actually, seen all of these.
The pastels.
The piece, you know, that's the trademark color. See that? That's why it is. We're in this excellent. That's the way I guess it is.
Karen?
Hi, how are you? Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. What's around Karen?
And I saw it.
All right.
Look at this. The tower, the clock.
All right, the main purpose of this being on the agenda today is to discuss the elevations, see if the board feels they are acceptable.
You have copies?
Yeah,
we have them.
Yeah, okay.
Just putting there for,
Still, you know?
We have them.
Okay, so you, okay, just.
they had given a smaller plan, because I was told that the color looked better on the smaller plan.
The printing's more true to the color scheme.
Darker bricks.
That's what it looks like.
So I just wanted to get the board's feedback so we can move along on this.
I think it's much better. I like it.
Second.
Third.
Much better.
Are we done? Are we done?
All right.
That's why I made that comment, clock, tower, the whole deal. Got everything, made everybody happy.
I'm trying, I said from day one, I'll try to do what I can, and Brett can, you know, make it.
I did put in everyone's boxes the spill report from the DEC that said everything had been cleaned up on the site.
Yeah.
It did talk about removing some monitoring wells. I don't know whether that's been done or not.
I don't think so, but I know, Erwin, you haven't done it, right?
No, we had a, no further action letter for them.
Right, but it talked about removing some monitoring wells.
Yeah, no, we did that, yeah.
If, we just got the wetland report and some other information that I had requested back in March, although some of it had some errors. So I've talked to the attorney and we're in agreement on how to move forward.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping to go out and just check the wetland flagging with our new environmental planner. And then I'll review the latest plan and hopefully we'll get to a preliminary approval soon.
Okay.
So we have a consensus on this
Yes.
elevation?
Go.
Okay.
Next, Rick.
Unless the board has any other questions.
Karen, can we get a letter of denial at this point, though, and to get to the zoning board?
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Mr. Murphy about getting a denial done now that we no longer have our,
Right.
Brad Hammond, our zoning officer.
Jeff said he'd issue it because Brad is on call.
Right, so we'll get that done.
Okay, good.
Great. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'll give all the
Fixing it
applications.
up, planning on.
Promise.
Spending some more money rather than on other things. Good. Be before you soon again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 7 on the agenda,
Take care.
chapter 219, Christopher and Kristen Donnelly. Are they here, John? No. Did they get it?
Yeah, just updated the.
No, it's the applicants.
Yes. Thank you.
Just your name for the record, please.
Rich Bosworth.
Alright,
Okay.
so we have a chapter 2-9 application received by the planning department for the coastal erosion hazard line permit for the demolition of an existing 981 square foot single-family dwelling and the construction of a new 2010 square foot single-family dwelling located landward of the coastal hazard erosion line at 668 Salmon Shore Road in Riverhead. It's a type 2 pursuant to SECRA, construction or expansion of a 1, 2, or 3 family residential dwelling. No environmental review is required. The subject parcel is approximately a little over 1/4 acre of land located on a private right-of-way known as Wells Way, which is on the north side of South Shore Road, as seen in Figure 1. It is located within the Residence A40 zoning district, and the current use in the surrounding adjacent properties is residential. And the existing dwelling is situated in close proximity to the coastal erosion hazard line, and it is an existing condition. The applicant noted that any modification to the existing structure will not conform to the dimensional requirements in the RA40 zoning district based on lots pre-existing non-conforming dimensions. The demolition and construction of a new dwelling will bring the structure into conformance with the town code and further set the house back away from the coastal hazard erosion line. The existing conditions, the site presently consists of a 981 square foot, 1-story frame, single-family residence with rear screen porch and frame storage shed. The current dwelling has a letter of pre-existing use dated July 1st of 1999, and the structure would be further set back from the coastal erosion hazard line. A wooden bulkhead and retaining wall are existing to reinforce and stabilize the bluff and reduce erosion. There is a wooden stairway that leads down from the top of the property to the beach, but is unsafe at this time to use for beach access, and rebuilding the stairway is not part of this application and will be addressed in further projects. The proposed demolition and construction of a dwelling will be set back further landward away from the coastal erosion hazard line, which will bring it into more conformance. The applicant has proposed silt fencing to limit erosion and runoff during both demolition and construction periods. Hay bales will also be used to limit erosion runoff, and erosion control measures will be shown on the plan as a condition of approval. The proposed work is expected to have no measurable impact on natural protected features and their function and protective values. The Suffolk County Planning Commission, in the letter dated April 23rd, 2019, found that the proposed application is to be a matter of local determination, as there appears to be no significant countywide or intercommunity impacts. We are currently awaiting comments from Vinnie Gordiello, our consulting engineer, which is why this agenda is on for discussion today. And this application has been sitting since January, so we want to try and move this application forward as quickly as possible. So any feedback that the planning board could give the applicant and me so we can move this process along more quickly would be appreciated.
You say they, because of the size of the property, did not conform to the R40?
Any
So they
modification?
don't have to go to ZBA?
Yeah, they are currently scheduled to meet before the ZBA on June 13th for relief and setbacks.
Rich, what's your relationship to the owners? Are you architect or
Contractor.
contractor?
Yes.
Okay. What shape is the bulkhead in right now?
Well, the bulkhead is lower, it's in excellent shape. I don't know when it was redone, but it was
DEC actually went there and did a site visit as well. The retaining wall, which actually sets, I would say, 8 to 12 inches above grade, is maybe a year old.
Okay.
So, everything there is very good shape. The plantings, the vegetation, going down to the lower
I noted that
level.
in my field notes on my site visit. It looked brand new.
Any questions?
Nope, it's pretty straightforward, so. See any issues?
All right, so it's contingent on ZBA and,
Yes.
but this is gonna have to go again for resolution, is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. I will have that information to you Monday morning.
Definitely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 8 on the agenda, Fidune Warehouse, Pulaski Street. Good evening.
All right, so the planning department has received and reviewed a preliminary site plan application seeking approval to construct a 5,400 square foot, single-story warehouse building, along with new curb cuts, parking, landscaping, lighting, stormwater, and sanitary system improvements on a vacant parcel of industrially zoned land. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Planning staff has reviewed the full EAF with parts 2 and 3 completed by planning staff. Based upon review of the information contained within the EAF, the site plan application, drawings, staff recommends the planning board assume lead agency without the need for a coordinated review, and recommends that a negative declaration can be issued pursuant to SECRA, as there are no foreseeable negative impacts to the health, safety, character, or general welfare of the surrounding area. The subject parcel is just over 1 acre, is located at 1281 Pulaski Street, which is on the southwest corner of the intersection of Pulaski Street and JT Boulevard, which are both part of the town highway system. The parcel is located within the Industrial A zoning district and shares its western property boundary with Town Hall West, which houses the accounting, engineering, buildings and grounds, and IT departments. There is a single-family residence located to the south of the subject parcel. It is noted that that house on that parcel is set back approximately 250 feet away from its northern property line, so the distance from the proposed site to the house is a great distance. The lots across JT Boulevard to the east is presently vacant and is also zoned Industrial A. Subject parcel is presently a vacant wooded lot. The site has about 300 feet of frontage on JT Boulevard and 150 feet of frontage on Pulaski Street. There is a regulated freshwater wetland, which is both a mapped DEC wetland and Town of Riverhead wetland, which is located on that residential parcel to the south of this project. The wetland boundary extends approximately 15 feet into the southern portion of the project site. The wetland flagging was done on February 3rd, 2019, and it's noted that the applicant is not proposing any ground disturbance within 100 feet of this regulated wetland. The property is generally flat with an elevation of approximately 19 feet at the Pulaski Street frontage and varying along the property to approximately 14 feet at the southern property boundary. During a site visit conducted by planning staff, there was a large pile of earthen material with what appeared to be large chunks of concrete, which was observed in the southern portion of the property. Pictures of that can be seen on page 3 of my staff report, page 4. On figure number 5. The reason, the pile has grown over with vegetation and is not being proposed to be disturbed as part of this application. The reason for the existence of this pile is unknown, however, it does not appear as though the current applicant is responsible for its placement. It is noted that any remediation of this pile would require the applicant to disturb a minimum of approximately 7,000 square feet of existing habitat, which would result in the loss of additional trees, would require additional approvals from the New York State DEC, as well as a import-export permit from the town board based upon the amount of material in the pile. Now this this was one of the major points on the application that I had identified when I went out and did a site visit. I wanted to get the planning board's feel on this pile, if they feel that additional testing should be done on the pile to verify its contents, if they would prefer the pile to be cleaned up, or if they would like the pile to remain undisturbed in its current state.
I don't see how we could just ignore it. I mean, it's a pile of debris, I think it should be tested and cleaned up.
How far is it for the wetland? You said something that if they have to remove it, that they'll need,
Yeah, so
a
on the
DEC
plan,
approval?
the entirety of the pile of material is located within the 100-foot setback to the DEC wetland. So any clearing of that pile will require DEC permits. I would say the pile is approximately, begins about 20 feet off of the southern property boundary. And again, it's unknown the amount of material that's in here. And I just kind of, when I got that 7,000, I just sort of did a rough scaling of what it would require to clear and disturb in order to remove that pile.
What about the building? Would the building come anywhere near,
No, the building does not come anywhere near the proposed pile. I would estimate
80 feet, probably 89 feet.
the closest disturbance to the pile is probably about 50 feet away from that pile. There is a limit of clearing which actually stays out of the 100-foot wetland boundary in its entirety. It did go before the CAC just because there was some disturbance to create the parking lot on the southern portion of the building. But yeah, right now, the applicant's not proposing anything, so I wanted to get the board's feedback on this.
We're gonna go take a look at it, but what is your recommendation?
I would recommend perform some soil testing. As I understand, this pile has been there for a long time. I mean, if there's no contaminants, if the pile is benign, I'm not necessarily in support of clearing 7,000 square feet of additional habitat. Now, I did note that when this project was referred to the DEC, because there are covenants on the property that any disturbance needs to be referred to them, they did note that the northern long-eared bat activity has been seen about 1.5 miles from the subject parcel. So there are time constraints as to when the property can be cleared, and I mean, being that the northern long-eared bat has been seen in the area, it would result in the elimination of approximately 7,000 square feet of additional habitat. So, again, it's the board's decision. I mean, my recommendation is if there's some soil testing that's performed on it, and if the pile is not found to be contaminated, I digress to the board, but I wouldn't necessarily support the additional disturbance.
Leave it undisturbed. And there's nothing in it. What do you think's in there?
What's there, I can go back to history. Back in the 60s, J.J. Harris purchased it. The pile was probably there when he purchased it, so the pile's been there for 60 years.
Came from the building next door where the town is.
Yeah, no, it's been way before that. The DEC's been on that property several times. I invited him on the property to inspect, number one, the wetland lines, and in the discussion with you calling it a pile of debris, it's not, it's soil, it's loamy sand. I walked it. Greg took some good pictures of a couple of pieces of cement. I have some pictures. Most of it is just earth. It's apparently maybe Harris put soil to store, to use for another project, who knows? But like I said, it's been there 60 years. It's not posing any health threat. If the DEC was concerned, that's how they make their money. And they have never.
So it's at the extreme rear of the
Way
property
in the
line?
back. And one of the reasons why I decided to do this project was in the mind to save as much environment as possible, okay? As you can see, the building is way close to the road. Originally, I had a larger building. I scaled it down so the drainage would fit in less than half of the property that I'm using. So, and even around the building, I got a lot of woodland protected, trying to stick this building right in the woods. And it's a small building. It's only like 5,000 square feet, maybe 3 tenants. And that's my feeling. I see it hasn't done any harm in 60 years. Why
Well, we don't, because
damage?
the parcel hasn't been an application for development. Now it's being
Yes,
developed.
it
and we
has, it
just-
has been.
I would not be comfortable just saying, oh, forget it, pile of debris, whatever, however you wanna label it, asphalt, concrete, without further investigation. You don't know if it's causing any harm. I mean, just to turn our heads is not the
Well,
right thing to do.
You know, back in 2001, there has been a site plan approval with this debris on it. There was no, I went through the records, there's no indication of doing any tests on it.
Was there any mention of the pile in that
No, I
report?
didn't see any mentions of the pile.
Okay, so it was brought to our attention, so now it's in front of us. We'll let the other board members look at it who want to look at it,
Sure.
and then we'll bring it back up, but I just, you know, nobody knows what it could be under there. And if we get someone's professional opinion that it's not hazardous, or you do some soil tests, that would satisfy me.
Okay.
All right, so we'll revisit that. I'll move on. In terms of conformity with zoning, warehousing is a permitted principal use within the industrial A zoning district, and the site plan complies with all the dimensional requirements, including floor area ratio, building coverage, impervious, and all front, rear, and side yard setbacks. It is noted that pursuant to the town code, properties within the industrial A zoning district shall provide contiguous open landscape space equal to at least 15% of the lot area, with preference given to existing habitat rather than clearance and creation of new habitat. As currently proposed, the application is proposing to preserve approximately 19,500 square feet of existing habitat, which is equal to approximately 43% of the lot area. So the preservation of that, you know, the southern portion of the parcel does help and contribute to the project complying with the requirements of the town code, as well as sticking to a 25-foot transitional side and rear yard buffer when it's when it's adjacent to residential properties. The site plan does propose 2 curb cuts to access the site. One curb cut is being proposed on Pulaski Street, approximately 120 feet west of the intersection of Pulaski and JT Boulevard. That Pulaski Street curb cut would serve as access to the main parking lot for the site. And there is a second curb cut being proposed on JT Boulevard, approximately 140 feet south of the intersection, which would serve as the access to the rear of the building where the roll-up doors would be located. Both curb cuts are more than 75 feet away from the intersection, which complies with the town code. There is a dumpster enclosure in the rear parking area. It's located on the western side of the property. It's being proposed to be screened by a 6-foot-high black chain-link fence with black vinyl privacy slats, as well as a buffer of 10 western arborvitaes. It is noted, just because I did review one of Mr. Padoon's previous site plans for a warehouse, I noted that on other applications, he's got, you know, if he's got 4 tenant spaces, he'll have 4 dumpster enclosures. Not that it's required, but I might recommend just including a 3rd dumpster pad there for a 3rd tenant, but, I mean, again, not required by code, just a recommendation for the ease of the applicant and the tenants. The site lighting does comply with the town code. The site plan is proposing 4 building-mounted LED fixtures at 15 feet above grade, and they have a color temperature of 3,000 degree Kelvin, which complies with the code. The site plan has a note that there are a new overhead electrical service on the eastern side of the property. It is noted pursuant to town code, all utilities must be constructed underground. Site plan must be revised accordingly. Site plan proposes 8 parking spots with 1 handicap accessible parking spot in the main parking lot on the northern side of the building. The amount of parking stalls provided complies with the code, as do the size of the stalls. In terms of landscaping, the application currently proposes to clear most of the property frontage with Pulaski Street and install landscape screening consisting of 12 Andorra junipers and 8 bayberry bushes, which are small shrubs. Being that the site is presently wooded and there are several large trees present along this frontage, the planning board may desire that the applicant attempt to retain more of the vegetation along Pulaski Street. Now doing that may require the site to be pushed back a little bit, which could push it into that DEC buffer area and require additional approvals. It is noted that there is a recorded easement on the property which grants a 20-foot wide access along the southern property boundary for the purpose of emergency vehicle and personnel access. It's noted that this easement area is located fully within the DEC wetland buffer, and construction of any access way doesn't really seem to be reasonable or prudent, nor would it serve any effective purpose, as it would kind of line up with the back of the town hall property. The applicant has submitted a revised site plan which does identify this area. Section 301-116 of the town code is supplementary guidelines. Supplementary guidelines, now these are guidelines which are intended to obtain compliance with the provisions to the extent practicable as determined by the planning board. Number A1, contiguous sidewalks, off-street transit stops, and bike racks close to business entrances shall be provided for properties on Route 25 or other major arterial streets. The application does not currently propose sidewalks or bike racks in the subject parcel. While sidewalks would be desirable to be installed on the site, as there is a sidewalk on the southern side of Pulaski Street as you head east from the subject parcel. I mean, a bike rack doesn't seem necessary, but it's a small enough feature that it could be added easily. Criteria B2, along borders with public streets, buffer plantings of a minimum 20-foot depth shall be provided. Now, this application does currently propose to keep a minimum 20-foot buffer along JT Boulevard, with the exception of the curb cut. The site plan, however, does not maintain the 20-foot required buffer on Pulaski Street, and is instead proposing a buffer of approximately 4 to 5 feet. Now, as I said, there is room to push this site back to retain more of a buffer along Pulaski Street, but that would put it back into the DEC regulations and require additional approvals. And there is also a restriction C2, off-street parking is prohibited within 30 feet of the property line. As it's currently proposed, there is proposed off-street parking within 4 feet of the property line. Again, now there is room to push the site back, and while these are guidelines, I just wanted to get the planning board's opinion on the location of the parking in relation to the property boundary.
How much could it be pushed back without going into those areas?
So moving the site about 5 feet back would trigger one of the DEC, would trigger that 100-foot wetland DEC setback. I don't see that necessarily being much of a problem. I mean, he's retaining, containing all his stormwater. However, if the site, there looks to be about, without having a scale, there's probably about 40 to 50 feet before he hits that pile. Which again, depending on the outcome of the site visit and some additional testing, we will visit that. But, I could say he could safely probably move the site back 20 feet, provide an additional buffer along Pulaski. And I don't think the DEC would have a huge objection if the site, instead of coming back here, came back to about here.
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't want to start getting into the DEC restricted. I want to pretty much preserve the DEC and respect them. That's one of the major reasons why I'm doing the building. I could have done a 10,000 square foot building, leveled everything off, and life would be great. I could give you everything you needed. I'm not that type of developer. As you can see, I only have 3, maybe 3, could be just 1 unit. It's a low impact. I'm trying to preserve the woods. I noticed across the street it's being cleared out. If that's the case, I'll probably, I hate to do it, but whoever would do it, probably, if they gotta do it at expense and go back in time, they would definitely do a 10,000 square foot building, level all the property, and move on. But, and also too, I am the applicant, I'm not the owner of the property. So this is all subject to.
In order to leave it the way it is, you have to go to ZBA?
No, so those are guidelines, they're not hard and fast, regulations. The planning board does have some discretion in approving or requesting modifications. I mean, it is noted from the property line, there was approximately, it looks like the edge of the pavement is about 8 feet off of the property line. So from the edge of the pavement on Pulaski Street to where the parking is, it's probably about 13 or 14 feet.
And it's not gonna be a real active driveway. Generally on a warehouse, car would stop, sit for most of the day. They'll probably be using the back than they more going in the front. So it's not gonna be a heavily trafficked area. If you know my other sites, go by any time and look.
I'll make a site visit, excuse me, tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So we'll revisit that when we get more information on the file, we can come back to that.
I'm interested in what the distance is between the building the town occupies and the building that's next to that. They're pretty close to the street. This may be just.
Well, I'm just
it
pretty
may
much on
be-
the same line
It
as
may be
you.
conforming, so.
I'm conforming.
Why go through all that?
Basically, I'm conforming with the same parking dimensions that the town has.
Yep. I'll look tomorrow.
All right, we'll revisit that after a site visit. The applicant did make an application to the Conservation Advisory Council for disturbance within a 150-foot buffer of the wetland. The CAC had the following, they recommended approval with the following conditions. The applicant must either obtain approval from the New York State DEC or a letter of non-jurisdiction, which the applicant has provided. The applicant must obtain Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval prior to construction. In regards to the DEC application, in a letter dated May 13th, 2019, the DEC determined that the proposed construction of the storage facility as depicted on the plans is more than 100 feet from the DEC regulated wetlands, and therefore no permit is required. As I said, the DEC did document the northern long-eared bat within 1.5 miles of the subject property. What that means is basically tree cutting at the subject location between April 1st and October 31st would have to be prohibited, or it would require a taking permit from the DEC. In other words, between November 1st and March 31st, the applicant would be likely wanted to do the construction as opposed to getting additional permits. Subject parcel is located within Groundwater Management Zone 3. The site plan appears to comply with the Suffolk County Department of Health standards based on the 0.04 gallons per day per square foot that warehousing is described in their sanitary guidelines. We've received comments from the Water District. They need to indicate the size of the water service. They will need an application for water hookup based on the proposed size of water service. Key money fees will be addressed upon final site plan approval, and the application will require a backflow prevention device. Town of Riverhead Highway Department, I was referred to them. I'm waiting on comments from them, being that they're proposing curb cuts on 2 town streets. It is also noted that on the northeast corner of the subject parcel does contain a portion of pavement comprising the intersection of Pulaski Street and JT Boulevard. Staff recommends that a legal description of this area be provided, and it be considered for a dedication to the Town of Riverhead Highway Department so that public improvements are not located on a portion of private property.
Which I think goes about maybe 3 foot. of
Yeah, I mean,
pavement.
it's a very small area, but I mean,
I think the plow kept adding to it as they went by, I'm sure.
We received some comments from the town engineer, which had to do with drainage systems. We'll need some small revisions. Title report was reviewed by the town attorney's office, which located that easement on the southern portion property, as well as a New York State DEC declaration, which they've satisfied with their application. The Suffolk County Planning Commission considered the application to be a matter for local determination. So the next steps, if the board would like to go I do have a resolution on. If the board was ready for a public hearing, we can schedule it, but that resolution can be tabled. I think based on the feedback from the board, they'd like to do a site visit, do some more investigation on that pile, and provide some comments as well about the parking. So for now, I'd recommend we hold off on that application, hold off on the public hearing until we can satisfy the additional information.
Greg, that easement, what do you think that was for?
I couldn't tell you.
It might have been when the other site plan that got approved, it might have been a cross easement that they put in possibly. I can't see it being way back there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the location really just doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, I could understand if it was somewhere we could access it, but you're not gonna construct a cross-access in a wetland area. It just,
Was there a date on it?
No, it's just all open. It's just all open. And also too, when you do the site inspection, keep in mind, I know you're gonna be looking down at the mound, but, take a look up and see all the pitch pines and everything else has a nice cover over, the canopy of trees. So, keep that in mind also. I hate to see those go.
all right, I mean, that's all we've got for now.
Okay.
I think we'll revisit this and revisit some of the issues, before we move forward with the public hearing.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay, just let the record show that member Deniseski has left the room. Next item on the agenda is number 9, AT&T at 1863 West Main Street, Dynamic Radiator.
All right, I'll run through this one quickly. Planning Department has received a site plan application to modify an existing wireless communications facility. The subject parcel is located at 1863 West Main Street in Riverhead, approximately 425 feet east of the intersection of River Road and West Main Street, and it's located within the Riverfront Corridor zoning district. Parcel is approximately 1.55 acres in size and is improved with a one-story masonry building used as an automobile repair shop, along with related parking improvements, as well as an existing 80-foot tall stealth monopole communications tower. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA, with coordinated review being optional and not recommended. Staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status for SECRA review and issue a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA. The original tower was approved by Planning Board Resolution number 30, dated April 2nd, 2009. The compound and tower were issued a CO on January 22nd, 2010. A special permit, which was required for the town board for the execution of the site plan, was approved by Town Board Resolution dated November 17, 2008. The proposed tower work consists of installing 6 new antennas, 6 new quadplexers, 3 new twin triplexers mounted within the existing pole, as well as route 12 new coax cables and 3 new RET cables from the ground up to the tower. The groundwork proposed consists of installing a new 300 square feet concrete pad within the fenced compound, install a range of new equipment including GPS units, quadplexers, fiber management boxes, and related equipment, as well as a new 30 kilowatt diesel generator to be located on the new concrete pad. Now, the proposed generator that is proposed as part of this application is a diesel standby generator to be used in the event of a power outage. The proposed generator is equipped with a muffler and sound attenuated enclosure. It's noted that the closest residential structure to the property is located approximately 900 feet to the west on River Road. A structural analysis was prepared by a New York State licensed professional engineer dated March 11th, 2009, which states that it is the conclusion of the engineer that the proposed AT&T loading will not have an impact on the structural integrity of the existing stealth pole structure. In the engineer's opinion, the AT&T appurtenances may be installed without any further analysis. And it went further on to state that for this stealth pole, the antennas and equipment will be mounted directly to the interior pole structure within the stealth canister. Therefore, a mount analysis is not required for the site. The RF analysis report, which was prepared by Sharo RF Services and stamped by a New York State licensed PE dated March 8th, 2019, found that the maximum RF exposure from the site was estimated to be 3.3% of the maximum permissible RF levels established by the FCC. There are no other carriers currently on the tower, so AT&T was the only carrier analyzed by this report, and it found that the site will be in full compliance with the FCC regulations. The applicant did receive a New York State DEC Wild, Scenic, and Recreational Rivers permit for the proposed site work. Did not require referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and the town engineer will require a post-construction analysis prior to the issuance of a C of O. Unless the board has any other questions, I do have an administrative approval resolution on for this.
Just on the diesel generator.
Yes, sir.
How many gallons of fuel is gonna be stored there, and is that gonna be subject to regulation?
Let's see if there's any indication of that. I do not see anything readily available. I mean, it may be in here. Is that something the board would like to hold off on
Well,
before
I
we do
just,
an
oh, here
approval?
she comes.
Yeah, sorry, I am with AT&T.
Oh, all right.
My name is Katie Jacobs, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, perfect timing.
Yeah. Approximately 100 gallons. We do have an application in for a registration for the generator with Suffolk County Health Department, so it is pending approval at the moment.
Great, okay.
It will meet their standards as far as,
I'm
as far as
sorry.
containment. It'll meet their standards as far as containment.
I didn't hear the first part.
It will meet the health department standards.
Yes,
The tank.
absolutely.
All right. With that new information, I would just recommend that we amend the approval resolution, that prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant submit the Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval.
Okay,
All right?
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, that's it, right?
That's it.
That's it. We're up to the public hearings. Public hearing number 1 on the agenda tonight, Sons of Riverhead.
Any comments? From anybody?
So officially for the public hearing, if you could just come to the podium, state your name, and a brief description of what the public hearing's for, what you're proposing to do.
Jeff Sirota.
Over to, if you don't mind, thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Sirota, I'm the developer for Sons Riverhead LLC, and we propose to take the Sports Authority, which was 45,075 square feet, and split the store, put a Dollar Tree in for approximately 14,000 square feet, and a Planet Fitness for approximately 20,000 square feet. The third tenant is to be determined. And we will be doing new pole lighting in the parking lot to fit the dark sky law, and we will be doing some new landscaping as well. And that's about it. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
So there would be some minor facade changes too, right?
Oh, as well, which elevations have been submitted. We would be changing the front, taking down the large metal Sports Authority grid, and we would be putting up 3 separate entrances for the new tenants as well. And we would also be putting some new store lighting on the front, and on the sides as well. We will be demolishing the interior of the Sports Authority and putting up 2 demising walls to separate the space.
Is there a loading dock in the back of that building, a loading area in the back of the building?
Yes, there is a loading dock on one
So there's not
side.
that many trucks unloading in the front?
Exactly, exactly. There won't be any trucks loading in front. And that's why we're putting the new loading dock on the west side of the building to fit whoever that new tenant is.
Okay, any other?
Actually, the east side of the building?
I'm sorry?
I think it's actually the east side of the
Did
building.
I say, did I say the west side? Please excuse me. Yes, there is a loading dock on the west side of the building, on the rear west of, yes.
Okay, any questions from the public on this application? Any questions from the board? Okay,
Make a motion that the public hearing of the Sons Riverhead LLC be closed. So moved.
Second.
okay, motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for Sons of Riverhead LLC, conversion of the Sports Authority building. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing number 2 on the agenda, Mary Ellen Real Estate, Riverhead Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Jim DeLuca.
Luker. I'm here for the Riverhead Dodge. Well, we're proposing a 31,146 square foot building with the required site improvements. The site plan with all the required improvements was handed into the planning department before this last version was submitted. I met with the fire marshal, I met with the planning staff. We made all the recommended changes that they wanted to the plan, and we submitted it. I did get some feedback from the town engineer. He wanted the tributaries, draining tributaries designated a little bit clearer, which I have no problem with, and he wanted proposed contour lines on it, which we have no problem with. Otherwise, I have received no other comments. The only comment that we received prior to that was from Suffolk County Planning, not Suffolk County Planning, Suffolk County DPW to change the handicap ramps that exist on the sidewalks today. We're not changing the curb cut, it's remaining as is. And in the plan that I submitted, we satisfied, as I said, all the recommendations that were given to us from the planning staff and the fire marshal. We did get ARB approval on the elevations. They wanted some more shrubs added, which we did on the plans that were handed in. And I have to go back to the ARB just on the shrubbery, but the building was approved as is. And as far as the lighting, it's all LED. I didn't receive any comments back from the town engineer after the first set that I handed in. I handed a second set. On his comments, I got nothing back, so I assume that everything is fine. All the specs were handed in, and all the details have been handed in. All the planting plans have been handed in, and that's where it's at.
What's the second story uses, Jim?
Second story in the main part is office area.
Okay. Is it handicap accessible, or?
Yeah, it's got an elevator in
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Elevator and 2 exit stairs.
Jim, what's the date of your latest plan? Site
Pardon
plan?
me?
What's the date on your latest plan?
The date on my latest plan is April 16, 2019.
Okay.
Just a quick question, I don't know if, I don't recall this coming up, but the loading and the unloading of new cars, they could do it on site?
Yeah, I made, if you're looking back at the building, we made it a 50-foot area, and it shows the 2 loading areas in the back of the building. It's 50-foot clear for them to bring their tractor trailer in, several tractor trailers.
Great, thank you.
I do have one question to the board. We had a ZBA hearing on, we exceeded the impervious area slightly, and it's been on hold since, and I haven't been given any information when we can go back to the board to finish it up. We had one variance for the impervious area at one time, and we were approved, and then we changed it slightly and actually reduced it, and we reapplied, and we've never heard anything back. It was put on hold pending, I guess, review from the planning department,
I can
but there's
clarify
no
that.
scheduled date to go back.
ZBA was waiting for a secret determination, which we can do, it's just because there's been some upheaval with losing our last environmental planner and our
Okay.
new environmental planner getting up to speed. So we can take care of that.
Do you hear that, Jim?
No.
It's in the process, it'll be taken care of.
Oh, okay.
We need to make
Karen's
a
aware.
secret determination. So, she said we'll do that sooner than later so that they can act on it.
Yeah,
CBA's waiting for that.
yeah, we'd like to, because the owner is being pressured from corporate to start construction, so we'd like to get some, that's why I addressed all these issues before. We try to get this thing done as soon as possible. You know,
We're in the middle of
practically
switching
there.
environmental planners, so it's.
Pardon me?
We just switched environmental planners for the
Okay.
town, so they're on top of it, no worries.
Okay, any questions from the public on this application?
Move we close the public hearing on Mary Ellen Real Estate.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for Mary Ellen Real Estate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Okay, public hearing number 3 on the agenda, Bating Hollow Cottage Condominium, cottage number 8.
All right, Greg Bergman for the Town of Riverhead Planning Department. I'm gonna make a brief presentation on this on behalf of the applicant. Planning Department, we reviewed a site plan application to construct a 248 square foot addition to the western elevation of existing single-family residence, a 169 square foot addition to the northern elevation, as well as enlarging an existing wooden deck to the north by about 210 square feet. The proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA with no further environmental review required. Site construction is going to be located at cottage number 8 of the Bating Hollow Cottage condominiums, which is located off of Oakley Avenue in Bating Hollow. The site is presently improved with a 1-story, 438 square foot cottage with a small deck. And the site is accessed by a one-way road off of Oakley Avenue. The condominium site is located within the RA 40 zoning use district. The application will require Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval for the expansion of an existing house, based on the fact that there were no verifiable health department records located within any building department records. The setbacks comply with to the property line boundaries, and it's noted that the proposed additions will maintain a 63-foot setback from the closest neighboring residence to the west, and a 40-foot setback to an unoccupied structure to the north of the existing residence. The proposed action will not require any relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The plans that have been submitted have been signed off on by the Bating Hollow Cottage Condominium Board of Managers, and the plans bear their signatures. In terms of drainage, the floor plan and elevation drawings show that all runoff from the house will be captured by gutters and piped into dry wells. And the reason this, even though it's for an expansion of an existing single-family residence, based on a 1993 application to the Riverhead Zoning Board of Appeals, the zoning board found that it was within the purview of the planning board to approve modifications to the Bating Hollow Cottage condominium. So that's about it.
Thank you, Greg.
Any questions from the public?
I move we close the Bating Hollow Cottage condominium public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for Bating Hollow Cottage condominium number 8. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Okay. Any comments on the resolutions before we vote on them? Any public comments on resolutions? Okay, number 1.
I'll move resolution 209, number 42, which is the site plan application Plaza 58.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 42 for Plaza 58. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number 2 on the agenda.
I'll move resolution number 43, which allows us to assume lead agency status, issue a negative declaration to SEQA, and approve preliminary site plan for the Islamic Center in Riverhead.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 43 for the Riverhead Islamic Center preliminary site plan approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, resolution is approved. Number 3 on agenda.
Resolution number 44, that's Merritt's Creek Townhouses, resolution to clarify action pursuant to secret, so moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 44 for Merritt's Creek Townhouses. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number
I'll
four.
move resolution 45, AT&T at 1863 West Main Street.
As
Granting
amend-
administrative site plan approval,
As amended, correct?
as amended.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 45 as amended for AT&T at 1863 West Main Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairman, I'm going to abstain because I'm the applicant, and I have a conflict of interest.
Okay, so resolution passes 4 and 1 abstention.
Make a motion to move resolution number 46 to Villas at Roanoke for a 6-lot yield map.
Second.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 46, Villas at Roanoke, approving a yield map. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved.
I'll move resolution 47 for the Target modernization to set a public hearing for the site plan application. So moved.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 47 for Target modernization, schedule a public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. In number 7, we are gonna make a motion to table that until we could do the site
Mr.
visit
Chris.
and determine what we're gonna do with that pile.
Second
the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution's tabled. Okay, any public comments on all matters from the planning board?
There is just one comment before we get to the minutes of the approval of the meeting minutes. There were 3 scrivener's errors in the resolution to approve the RGR Ventures minor subdivision on Manor Road. I spoke with Council Ehlers about it, and he just said I needed to just explain the corrections to you. We will have the chairman sign a revised, corrected resolution. The first error, lots number 1 and lot number 4 on the approval, the square footages got mixed up. Lot number 1 and lot number 4 was 80,000 square feet, and I believe 141,000 square feet. So we're gonna correct that. And then in the approval, it said the lots may not be further subdivided with approval from the planning board. It was meant to say without approval from the planning board. So I will make those corrections, and you will be presented with a amended resolution to sign.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to move the May 16th, 2019 planning board minutes, so moved.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve May 16th minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we did receive a letter from the town board requesting lead agency for a solar application Nextera at the Old Carrollton Links Golf Course and adjoining parcel. And just want to bring it up for discussion. Does the planning board want to take the lead agency status or request lead agency status since we've done all the other review in the town for all the solar? I'm not sure why the town wants to keep this one, so it's open for discussion.
I think we should. We've been involved in all the other applications and all the other sequence.
I agree.
We should continue it.
Okay.
As lead agency, we can do that.
Do we know why the town board wants to?
I believe the belief is that the town board is approving the special permit, which is sort of the gateway for the application. Without the approval of the special permit, the site plan application wouldn't go anywhere. So I believe that was the reasoning for it.
Okay, well, like I said, we've done all of them in the town, and, you know, we've learned a lot, we've caught a lot of things, and I think this board is best suited to be the lead agency in such review, so, just
I agree.
poll the board, O'Day,
Yes.
Deniseski,
Town board.
town board, myself, I say planning board,
Planning board.
Planning board.
okay,
All right,
so,
so what that will require, I did look at the secret regulations. We will have to send a letter to the New York State DEC Commissioner stating that the planning board would like to request lead agency. What's gonna happen then is it's gonna be reviewed at the DEC. They will basically come to a determination to determine lead agency, so.
Before that letter goes out, with the permission of the planning board, I'd like to meet with the town supervisor and discuss why they wanted to be lead agency in this review process.
No objection to that.
That's fine.
I mean, we do have, before that letter goes out, the letter is dated June 6th, so there's a 30-day coordination period. I did plan on having the application on at the next planning board meeting on June 20th, which would give the board plenty of time to draft a letter, give you time to have a meeting, and then come to a, conclusion at the next meeting. But that letter will not be drafted out and sent out until it's reviewed by the planning board.
I just, I think there's a concern, not that any of us are opposed to solar, but general concern is how fast these applications are coming in, how many have been approved in one hamlet or region of the town. We've asked several questions about the expansion of the PSE&G substation on Edwards Avenue, whether it was with or without approval. Those answers are still pending back to this board. And I don't feel that the master plan that's in place right now ever contemplated so many hundreds, I think we're approaching over 1,000 acres of solar in that one area, the loss of farming soils, and I just think this is happening way too fast that the town can really wrap their arms around to keep moving at this speed, so.
Are there any other applications at this point for solar?
Not that are pending with the town. The only one that we are currently reviewing is the NextEra. There is the Riverhead Solar 2, which is being proposed by S-Power, but that's going through the Article 10 process through the state, so.
In the same area.
Yeah.
Right.
I just have a feeling that somehow we've got to study this, the town itself, and see what areas would be available for solar in the future. And I think to do that, the comprehensive plan is the best way to do that. But in addition to that, I'd like to see that maybe that we could ask the town board to create a moratorium on solar for the duration of the planning study. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Well, I typically don't like moratoriums, but this is happening so fast. Listen, if the town feels that every vacant piece of, whether it's industrial or agricultural property in that region is fair game for solar, let's hear it from the town board, but I don't think there's any vision or any control that's going on right now, and the town really needs to take a step back and look at what's happening in this area. I also don't feel that the town is seeing the full benefit of the impacts and the green energy that's being created. And I'd just like to cite or reference a report during one of the hearings for the Article 10 application for S-Power 2, where New York State Department of Ag and Markets said that it was their opinion that if a parcel was not farmed for 20 years, the farming soils were considered lost forever. So I think all this adds up to things moving way too fast and happening in that area too fast. So I would be in favor of a moratorium also.
Is the landfill in play, or talked about? Where is
I
it?
believe there was an RFP. I did see something in the newspaper. I mean, I don't know the specifics of it, but I believe it was selected for a solar project based on the applicant's ability to connect to the power grid. Again, I don't know details of it. It was just something I read in the Riverhead Local, I believe.
I sat down, I wrote down what I do with certain things when I want to know the positive. I wrote the positive and negatives down. And first of all, I would say I am not for clear-cutting trees for solar. I would only support it in open areas, existing areas. The negatives, probably not the highest and best used property for tax returns and et cetera. No job creation after the original build-out. The other negative I see is possible eyesore, depending on personal opinion. I like looking at them. I'd rather see that than a house or a building. The positives, the town taxpayers will receive pilot payments. It will put no children in the school district. It will create no traffic. It will create no noise. It's a green, renewable energy. Dick Amper, where are you when I need you? As for the myth that the land will no longer be farmed, it's just not true. This land is glacial, it's 10,000 years old, and if it sits for 20, 50, or another 1,000 years, it'll still be farmed. Besides, it's zoned industrial. It may never have farmland again. It could be industrial. And we can't, or we shouldn't, run the government on what might change in the future. I think that's bad policy and not a good way to run the government. But the biggest reason I support it is because people have property rights. Whether I like it or whether it ruins my vista or my view, doesn't matter. People have property rights. If it's zoned that way, I firmly believe they have the right to do it. Those are my thoughts on it.
And I did just want to follow up, because there was an application, I had a farm stand application, which is being reviewed, I'm just waiting on plans, but there's a parcel on the northeast corner of Middle Country Road and Wading River Manorville Road. Parcel was historically farmed. Farm operations ceased on the parcel for approximately 15 to 20 years. Parcel regrew, became overgrown with trees and vegetation. The applicant on that parcel, they changed ownership. They clear cut the parcel, and the parcel is currently being farmed. So I think that comment with the loss of agricultural, I think that needs some more science behind it, some more definition.
That came straight from New York Ags and Markets in the report on the Article 10.
They just did a lot on Reeves Avenue. It's been fallow for 15 to 20 years. It's farming, it's very productive land.
Yeah.
I'd have to strongly disagree with it.
Well, I think the point is, you know, you have all these opinions, and it's changing so rapidly with solar in that area. If the town feels that everything's fair game and they want to change the rural character of the town, I mean, Edwards Avenue is the gateway to Sound Avenue. That's where everybody goes for all the different seasons, and if they want to look at all solar instead of farms, let the town make that decision. But right now, there's no clear guidance on that, and the master plan was silent on it. And beyond that, you know, the substation on Edwards Avenue that they're all connecting to, you could see that they were clearly expanded over the course of however many years, and it invites these solar companies to come in and you know, set up shop in this area because it's easy to connect to. So my question is, which we're waiting for an answer, you know, did that require site plan approval? Were they exempt from site plan approval? Did they need partial? And, you know, that investigation, I brought this up probably 2 months ago, is still ongoing, and I haven't gotten an answer. So I think, you know, with all these questions, not saying that any of us, or the board, or myself is opposed to it in general, it's just happening way too fast that anybody could digest what the long-term impacts are gonna be to that whole area.
In the same token, we had that with the state now taking precedence over approving these solar sites, that takes us out of the ballgame. So I think maybe we should study it first and have a moratorium that would add to it and stop that nonsense from the state. Be a kickback, pushback from us too.
All right, I
A
mean,
moratorium, I think, is the way to go.
I mean, I will definitely, you know, consult with Jeff when he gets in. I mean, the planning board can make a
And
recommendation.
Jeff did say he's working on it. He had some meetings with the attorneys, and he's got some information, and he said he was gonna finish it and report back to us, you know, in the next couple meetings. So I'm not saying he's not doing what we asked, it just hasn't come back to us yet.
And again, yeah, just to reiterate, you know, nobody's saying we're against it, it's just moving too fast, just investigate it a little bit more and, you know, and get to the core of, you know, what may happen, you know. We all think it's great, but, you know, there could be some very, you know, negative, you know, outcomes with this stuff, so let's just look at it, that's all.
So, Dick, do you have a feeling? I think Ed's clear that he's opposed to a moratorium. Dick, do you have a position on it?
I would be in favor of a moratorium.
So we have a consensus of the board that we are in favor of a moratorium. We don't have obviously don't have the authority to do that, but I'm gonna ask staff to prepare a memo
To the town
to the
board.
town board, so, in that regard.
I can have that drafted, I can have it ready for your review at the next meeting.
Yeah, as long as Jefferson's part of it.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Not stepping on the boss's toes.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Next meeting is June 20th at 3 PM. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, have a good night.
Hey, Greg, could you check tomorrow on that gas line? how
Yes,
it goes
yes.
down? What's your extension to?